Hello and welcome to episode 12, 11,
12.
12.
12?
Sorry, we're confused. Episode 12 of Get the Skinny on Beachbody Coaching Weekly Chat. And this week, Tom, Shelley, and I are going to be talking about telling your story. Telling your story, everybody's got one, and it's a major life skill. No matter what your goals are, what you're trying to do in life, being able to tell your story is super important. Wouldn't you agree, panel?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And depending on the situation, you might tell your story in different ways. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So who would like to start?
Well, I can start because I have and I think everyone does, have a multifaceted story. So depending on who I am speaking with will depend on which part of my story I decide to share in that moment, because not every part of every person is going to resonate with the person that they're talking to. And I always thought it was interesting. At some point it hit me that I could take two pieces of paper, and on one I could write mom of three, like 42, preacher's kid, baker, scrapbooker. On the other, I could put former exotic dancer, like adult beverages, like nacho eater. Which one would you want to hang out with? Well, guess what? They're both me. So it's all about who you're talking to and what they're going to connect with. So basically, when I tell my Beachbody story, what I normally go to is how I started with the workouts, because for a lot of us, we got into this with the programs and then found out about the coaching opportunity. There are lots of people that start because they want to do a business, but for me personally, I started with the exercise programs and then found out about the business after the fact. So I share about how it's been almost 5 years ago now. Dave and I both decided that it was time to quit smoking. We're not taking care of ourselves, throwing money out the window. It was time to get it together. So I started working out a month before that because I wanted to be in the habit of working out before I quit the habit of smoking, so it wasn't something new. And that's basically short version how I got into it. Was I knew I was familiar with Tony Horton, I was familiar with Power 90, and I went back to where I was comfortable and started with those workouts. And then once I finished that, then I dove into insanity, which was insane. And then since then, I've just fallen in love with so many of the programs and started coaching, and it kind of evolves from there. But that's how I start sharing my story of getting on the path with Beachbody.
All right. Tom, you have anything to say?
If you want to know more, I didn't know how in depth you wanted me to get. So,
well, I mean, I guess part of what this is about is tonight is maybe telling a little bit about our stories, but also when you're talking to somebody either about transforming their life with Beachbody products, through health coaching, or getting into the business, depending on what they say to you, how you relate your story to them without it. I don't know. I guess I'm kind of going into what I would do, but a lot of telling your story. I think with people that you're trying to relate to and get to know is, listening to their story and you're doing a lot of active listening, and then figuring out how your story can inspire and motivate them, and what parts of your story would best relate to them. It's an art, but it's also a learned skill.
mm-hmm.
And it's sometimes I think it's hard for a lot of coaches to do it because there's parts of their story that maybe they don't want to tell or they're uncomfortable telling. But I think one of the things, I mean, Tom's probably already learned this, but we're all continuously learning. But one of the things that we have to learn is to, is not to be afraid to tell our stories, because we can't really be authentic unless we do, and we can't really find a tribe unless we do. And so we have to learn a way to tell our stories, sometimes the good, the bad, and the ugly, in order to not only to help people, but also to, to help find our tribe.
Absolutely. And the thing that just resonated with me when you said that was, for a long time, I never talked about being divorced. I never, I pretty openly shared my depression, but sharing my former job is new, because I was like, no one's going to like me anymore. That's my past. That's there.
Right.
And I think rather than having a specific thing in common, it's knowing that we've been through it. We're human too. And then connecting with somebody else and being able to help them on the path of overcoming whatever it is they're going through. It doesn't have to be the same issue,
Right.
but just knowing that, this helped me through my dark time, and it can help you through your dark time, even if the dark times aren't exactly the same.
Yeah, totally.
Next. Unless you had any questions,
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure Tom is allowed to share. I'm just not sure if he's going to share it.
Sure. I was just waiting to be called on.
Since when?
You're it.
It's your turn.
Okay, when I talk about my story, it's more of a therapeutic value for me without giving a crap about anything else or who it resonates with, especially as of lately. It's just purely a therapeutic thing. And I cry when I need to cry, and I talk about my mistakes when I make mistakes, or if something happens, whatever it is, I always talk about it. And whenever I score a victory, I actually put the spotlight on whatever it was that I had to overcome to score that victory. And so it's therapeutic for me, but at the same time, it just might resonate with somebody that's like, oh, well, he had to overcome some stuff to get that victory. It's not just something handed to him on a silver platter because he's particularly gifted in something that I'm not, that sort of thing. So, and then if it's anything beyond that, it's going to be along the lines of, I guess, what Kelly and Shelley, I think you said too, about making it relatable. So like if I'm talking one-on-one with somebody, then I might cherry pick certain parts of my story that might line up with whatever it was that they shared with me. But outside of that, it's just a very unreserved therapeutic thing for me to go into my story.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have to agree. I have to agree that no matter what, that's probably true for all of us, that it is therapeutic. The thing I struggle with is, trying not to make it all about, not trying to make it all about me. So finding a way to tell, either whether I'm cherry picking or I'm just laying it out there, finding a way to do it where, where the goal is not just, to be relatable and to be authentic, but also so that they can see themselves in my story. They feel included in my story. So it's about me, but it's really about them. And that's where I think that the art is.
And that's something that I've been learning recently, and changing a lot of what I post, changing the I statements to asking questions. Like, have you ever felt like this?
Yeah.
Have you been in this situation? So that whoever's reading it can say, well, yeah, actually, and then, because honestly, if you don't know me, you don't give a crap what, it's not, you don't know me, so why would you, so
Right.
making it more of a, have you ever felt this way? Because you're not the only one who has, and it's kind of like gives someone hope as well as helping me too. It's a shared situation then. So
yeah, a lot of it is, people just not feeling like, it's just, it's amazing. It's amazing how, no matter how many times, it happens to us or to other people, or how old we get, when we struggle, and something, a struggle becomes part of our story, we always feel like we're the only one that's experiencing it. And, sometimes even if they can't relate to that particular part of your story that you're telling, at least, like you said, they're hopefully you're making them feel like they're not the only one that does struggle, and, and they're not alone, and that there are other people that, that can relate to them. So it always amazes me when people go, "Oh, I can't believe it, you too." They say that over and over, and it's like, yeah, there's a lot of us, who've been in this situation or felt that particular way. Maybe not exactly the same, but close enough,
And that's I'm sorry.
No, I'm fine.
Because I was going to say, a lot of the time I hear from people, because when they see the videos I post now, and all this is almost 5 years into my journey. So, I do look different. My body has different definition and all than it did when I started. And so people will say, well, I don't have the results yet. And I tell them, no one wants to read a book that says once upon a time, the end. Like, it's the story that keeps people coming back to see.
Right.
They want to be on that journey with you.
Mm-hmm.
So not everyone who has a story to share has something completely tragic or horrible, but you have daily struggles. We all do. And that's enough to share. Like I've been sharing a lot how I just don't friggin' feel like doing my workout lately. But you know what? I got up and I did it, and I feel awesome after I do. And it's not a humongous deal. The world's not going to stop turning if I don't do my workout, but I'm not going to feel as good. So I overcome that struggle, and I share that because I don't want people to think, well, you're a coach now, so you get up and you're like, yes, I get to work out. Yeah, like that's not what it's about. It's sharing all of the little mountains that we climb.
Yeah. Whereas I'm the weirdo. If I can't work out, I get pissed off. So
it's like a very odd couple weeks for me. I think because the weather changed and I'm just cranky in general.
Listen, well, every year is different, but this year weather just changed on a dime, and it's been affecting a lot of people. Yep. I've been noticing that.
I'm like,
so. Yeah. I was thinking before I left work today, and we got together to do this. I was thinking that one of the most difficult, I don't know, I don't mean to mention this book because, we're not talking about selling, but have any of you read the book Sell with a Story?
Mm-mm.
Well, in the Who Knows a Guy group, it was one of the book club books. And so I bought it on Kindle, and there's it's a really good book. But he teaches you how to tell 25 different types of stories depending on your situation. Anyway, Tom, you must have lost his connection for a second. It was like a magic trick. But anyway. The very first story that he teaches you how to tell in the book is what to say when people say, "What do you do?" Like if you were to go to a networking, like a networking thing, like with the, Chamber of Commerce or whatever, and somebody says, "Oh, hey, Shelley, I'm Kelly. What is it that you do?" One of the cool stories that he taught. One of the cool stories at the very beginning that he teaches you how to tell is that. And what he suggests is learning how to say something along the lines of, well, how when people have for a very long time struggled, with getting healthy or losing weight, or, they have digestive issues or whatever, well, I help them do A, B, and C, or, I do this or that or whatever. And so it's a little more complicated than that, but that's kind of the gist of it. So where instead of saying, oh, well, I'm a health coach and, that kind of thing, saying, well, how when people, have these kinds of issues or problems, or they need help with, A, B, and C, well, I do this to help them and in that kind of thing. And I thought that was extremely helpful. I thought that was really cool.
That is really cool. I like
yeah. So, because sometimes when people reach out to us, because it occurred to me, because sometimes when people reach out to us, they don't really know what it is that we do, and sometimes it occurred to me like sometimes there might be a situation where you might want to stop and say, hey, now I just want to make sure that it's really cool you reached out to me and I would love to help you, but let me, maybe you might want to have a clearer idea of what it is that I do. And then you could actually use that story as an entryway to get to pique people, not only tell people what you do, but also kind of pique their interest.
Right, because it's not just putting a title on with no explanation.
Yeah, totally.
Telling the explanation so they ask you about your title.
Yeah, or for those people who say, oh, so you're a Beachbody coach. Well, yeah, but how when people, are frustrated because they can't get results with this or that, or they've tried so many different ways of, achieving their goals or whatever. Well, that's really what I do. So as a way to kind of maybe sometimes deflect. Yeah, I leverage those products and they really help people because they work. But how when people, whatever, and then kind of get rid of that sort of tense, sort of uncomfortable moment sometimes when people just want to put you in a Beachbody coach box.
In the Beachbody box.
You know how people don't really know what to do because nothing is spelled out and they're guessing to eat portions and what moves to do exercise-wise. Well, I connect people to a program that answers all that and takes all the guesswork out for them so they can just get results.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Perfect.
I like it a lot.
That's pretty cool. So what do you do for a living? Whatever the fuck I want. What do you do?
It's like Karen's here.
In absentia, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I've been saying. And I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but lately that's just been a gut visceral response. What do you do? Whatever I want. What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well.
And then, of course, they ask. Actually, it's a good peak interest statement because then people are like, well, give me an example. Like, what's that?
Right. Yeah, very cool.
That would definitely pique interest for sure.
Really? You do whatever the hell you want? Wait a minute. Yeah.
You got a trust fund?
Do whatever the heck I want. What do you do? And then they might go into what they do, and then I can ask them questions about that, or they get really curious about my answer because it's so vague.
That's good.
Yeah, totally.
Because that's the whole thing is piquing interest. You don't want to blah, 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 and then people are like, blah, 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 and then you get nowhere.
Right. Right.
I just don't want to sound like the same boring, trying to think of a different word than a-hole. I don't want to appear to the same boring a-hole that the pattern that everybody else hears, where it's like, oh, you're a network marketer or you're a salesperson or whatever, because they all give the same boring, stale answers.
Mm-hmm.
Are very similar to one another, and I hate falling into those patterns.
Mm.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's interesting that that people, I don't know, that they equate, or that they, when they say to you, oh, you're a network marketer or you're this or that somehow that's a bad thing. It's certainly there's a lot of network marketing out there that has given the profession a bad name. But a lot of it, I mean, and I'm sure there are scams today for sure, but it's, I mean, I think over the last 10 years or so, the profession has been elevated to a different level, and people are operating in a different way, and with more with a lot more integrity than years ago. But it's just amazing to me that people would paint something so negative, when the upside, is just so amazingly positive, if it's something that you can learn how to do, and make a success out of it.
Well, that's the problem, is with there being so many different ones now, and so many different ones that aren't training people properly.
Yeah, that's the big problem.
What I love about Beachbody is there is training, free training.
Right.
So you really do get a sense of what to do before you are another, hey girl, in the inbox, because people are just so saturated with it that as soon as, if you even say because they're just so hammered with so many different ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's why talking to people and sharing stories and building trust is so important, because we're not selling, we're helping and sharing and, absolutely making money doing it.
Right.
But it's not like I've said before, here's a phone, want to buy it, buy. It's not like that. We're making connections, and that's why storytelling is so important. I mean, how many thousands of years have people told stories? It's not, it's a proven way to get to know people. So,
yeah.
Whenever it comes up about the bad reputation of network marketing, if someone's thinking about this and they're concerned about the bad rep, then it's really easy. Here's what I do. I just say, well, that's because the best thing about this is we'll take anybody. You don't get judged like you would at a job application where they could say no to your source of income, literally. But
yeah.
the worst thing about it is we'll take anybody. So somebody that gets rejected at Walmart and McDonald's, they can get into this. So it's the best and the worst thing. And a lot of times we get the scummiest people, and then we get the best people and everything in between. So your business is going to be a reflection of you. So if you're scummy, you'll have a scummy business. If you're great, you'll have a great business.
Yeah.
And if they're still questioning it at that point, because that's a logical response. Like most people, it's going to make sense. Oh, yeah, okay. But if somebody still questions it at that point, I'd be like, well, if you got in, would you suddenly just turn into somebody that you're not and start treating everybody like scum? And most people, well, no, I would never do that. Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, there's a best and a worst in every profession. Like somewhere in the world is the world's worst doctor, and someone is seeing him tomorrow, or her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's good and bad in everything. So you can't just take
But this one is special though. This one is special though, going back to the logic of the best and the worst thing about this business is we'll take anybody. So we're going to get anybody. There's no pre-qualification. You just have to be 18 years old and a U.S. citizen, or now Canadian or Great Britain.
Okay.
But you just have to be 18 years old and with some sort of a tax or country ID. That's the only qualification there is. So we're going to get a lot of scumbags.
Yep.
Right. But the important thing is that the company whose products we leverage in our coaching businesses does not encourage us to be scummy. They encourage us to be the complete and utter opposite of that.
Right.
And that's where the rubber meets the road.
Right. And that's going to be just about every company. I mean, no network marketing company is going to be like, yeah, we're going to raise up just really scummy people. And maybe Beachbody does it better than the rest of them as far as, encouraging. But I mean, all of them are going to encourage the best behavior out of their people. But even still, that's impossible to police and enforce. So there's going to be a lot of scummy people, and that's just the way that it's always going to be, because the qualifiers don't exist, and that's part of what makes it the best and the worst about this.
Yeah.
Right. But by the same token, depending how scummy they are, they can be fired, even though they're not an employee. They can be fired from Beachbody coaching. So
well, they can be, their contract can be terminated. So fired is not the right word, but
true, right.
The coaching status can be canceled out.
Right.
They can get the Beachbody boot.
Right. Right.
And then they can go on YouTube and make videos on how
Why I
Beachbody,
quit
whatever.
Beachbody, why it sucks.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen a few of those. So the headlines, I haven't actually watched them, but I've seen a few of the titles.
Yep. But that's the way it is. Not everything is for everyone.
Right.
The fact that we aren't just selling a tangible product, like
Right.
the products are part of it, but it's the life changing, the health changing, you know, like that you're not going to be successful if you can't connect with people. It's
Right.
a lot different than being a cashier somewhere and just ringing someone out, you know, like, and that's what a lot of places do. They just want to sell products, sell products, sell products. And here it's a lot more involved.
Sure, totally.
Right.
So we might get them, but they're not going to last.
Right. So you might say that if somebody, you know, if somebody's story, you know, if somebody's story is not one that they, you know, that aside that they first of all don't want to get healthy, fit, you know, when they don't want to be the best, you know, Shelley, Kelly, Tom that they can be, and they don't have their story doesn't lend itself to wanting to be someone who helps other people do that as well, then they're definitely not right for this, you know, right for this particular business.
Right.
Because they could sell, you know, they get to sell wine, you know, they can sell lots of other things.
Yes.
And they're the type of people that throw people in groups without asking first.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's very true.
I've removed myself today from 32 groups I didn't even know I was in.
Seriously?
And I'm not going to call out no, it was more like 8 of them were one company, and I'm not going to say which one. But it's rude and stop it. Yes. And I've actually joined groups that I wouldn't normally have joined because the person asked me first. And I said, you know what? I appreciate that you respected me, so out of respect for you, I will come in your group and participate to help you out because you were nice enough to ask me first.
Yeah.
Sorry, pet peeves, that's not the way to share your story because I will share my story all over your group.
Yes.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
Here's a story of a girl named Lisa.
Oh no! I've had that in my head all night.
It could be worse.
Part of that.
Yeah.
Find what's no. I can my,
Huh? What?
I can't hear you.
What?
You were humming over Lisa. I couldn't hear Lisa.
oh,
The Brady Bunch theme song.
What did you say, Lisa?
oh, I just said I could remember every single word of that theme song.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no doubt.
Remember what I have in my closet, except I can now. So I can't say that anymore.
No,
And
you
it's all
can't.
my colors. I'm going to make Mara's closet in colors too.
That's a good plan.
It is. It's a big step on my personal journey. It is.
Then it's a story you should be sharing. See how I brought that all around.
Oh, see how you did that? Snap. All right. Well, I have no idea how much time we have left. Any closing thoughts? Yeah. Well, it did pop up at one point, but now I don't see where we are. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's not on mine. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the 10-minute warning came up, but I don't see the countdown now.
It's like we're all just hearing dun 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 dun. Dun. We just don't know.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
So share your stories. You never know who you'll relate with.
Yeah, absolutely. got to tell your story. You got to learn how to tell it, and you have to learn how to selectively tell it based on the situation, the needs of whoever you're talking to at that particular time,
Yes.
and based on the context.
Got Hamilton stuck in my head now.
You got Hamilton stuck in your head.
Who tells your story? See, that's the thing with this social media. We tell our story. We do have control.
Yes, we do.
Take that, George Washington.
And telling your story in your posts every day.
Yes.
Little bits of it, so that you can relate the story to the pictures. Bring people in to you, because that's who they're here for.
Sorry, it just popped up. I got excited. I'm like, we have 1:40. I can see it.
How come you can see it?
It just popped up. 1:34.
I can't see it.
We have 1.5 minutes.
Okay.
We can all just do the Brady Bunch since we're in squares.
We could.
We are in squares.
Oh, now I can see it at 1:17. It just popped up.
Yeah, it popped up out of nowhere, and I got excited. I was like,
That's so weird, because normally it's up there the whole time. Zoom, what are you doing, Zoom?
Zoom was taking a nap.
I guess so.
Well, if you were watching us tonight, thank you for watching.
We appreciate it very much. Hopefully you learned something, and please feel free to share your knowledge of this particular show, which is the episode 12 of Get a Skinny on Beachbody Coaching with your friends and your wider group of folks. We'd certainly appreciate a lot of views, and hopefully you and they will learn something.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. It's gonna cut out anytime now.
The suspense is killing me.
I know. Normally it cuts us off in the middle of the closing. We're getting better at it. Woo!